All right, we're recording now. So anything recorded from this point forward can and will be used in the court of the Fish Nerds podcast.
Is that a legal court? Court of law?
Court of law. Dunk.
Can anything be held against me legally?
Not near you. With 6 feet away, though, for sure.
Oh, okay. I did not sign a waiver.
No.
My rights.
Are you up in Intervale now, or are you down in?
I am in Greenland, where the trees are out, the grass is green, it's warm and sunny. I was up in Intervale a couple days ago, and it's still barely green up there. It's still like winter, sort of.
Well, in the mountains, are tons of snow up on Mount Washington.
Yeah. I went out on Moore Reservoir there trying to get pike, and it was like really cold, and I mean it was nice, but it's different down here. It's like spring for real.
Well, I mean now up here it's all 70 degrees today. My kids were like, let's go on the boat this afternoon. I'm like, I can't. I got to interview a guy about a book. and I'm the board chair of the UNH Cooperative Extension, so I have to run a board meeting tonight at 6 on Zoom. And I'd rather be on the boat. Yeah,
the boat does sound nice.
It is nice.
I took my boat out once. I think I got out, and the wind just beat the life out of me. I mean, it was really windy, and I'm like, why is everybody coming in and I'm going out? And
yeah, it's relentless. It's been nice the last few days.
Yep, and I could troll, okay, but the second I stopped trolling, it was just whipping me all over.
Mm-hmm. What are you using for a microphone?
I got my Yeti.
Your Yeti, yeah, you definitely need to get closer to your Yeti.
Does it better here?
Yeah. Yetis are notoriously good microphones and poor and bad. Yeah, they could be anything.
Right. That's what I've learned.
Yeah. But people love them. But they pick up the whole room, which is so you get that echo.
Yeah, and I got the pop thing here too.
Yeah.
Try to stop the pee popping.
I'm checking my email to see if I hear from John's people.
Oh, John's people.
Yeah, let's see. John Gierach. All right, so the link I sent was the link you got, and what I sent them. Here's the link for Tuesday. That's it, right? 3 p.m.
Yes.
Eastern, 1 p.m. Mountain.
Yep.
So
that's
we're
it.
on time. All right.
We're on time. And you checked with him earlier, right? You said you
confirmed? I confirmed with his people.
Oh, his people. We need people. Who can we get it for our people?
Vinny could be my people.
Vinny's back to ice cream.
It's right, scooping with his face mask on.
He's quarantine ice creaming, so he's out of commission. Who else do we have? People.
John King can be your people.
John could be our people. Yeah. We'll just send him all the all the riffraff.
He'd be thrilled.
Oh, John would be great to have his people.
John is one of the best advocates. If he's on your team, he just is all in. He's great. So
he tries so hard. Like I wish I don't even try that hard at work, and he's like, I'm gonna do a whole roller for this podcast. He does all those segments, and I'm like, wow.
I would support John doing a spin-off podcast. Like having his own little spin-off, because he's got the chops. He's having a fun time with it. I bought him a website, or I bought him a URL. I bought him crappyhippie.com. He didn't own it yet. I'm like, how do you not own that? You've been coining that. You better own it. So
I know before it's trademarked by someone.
So I bought it for him.
Where does it go? Did it point anywhere?
I pointed at his lead-free fishing site.
Is it glasswater angling now, or is it glasswater lead-free angling?
I don't say it out loud anymore because I can't get it right anymore. So, and if I get it wrong, John corrects me, so I just don't say it.
Leaded glass angling.
I'm going to just say crappyhippie.com.
I like Crappie Hippie. I think the whole line should be just Crappie Hippie lead free.
I think it's a good brand. Yeah.
It's rhymes. Can't beat a rhyme.
Website, you don't forget it.
Got John. He'd work on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. Record an English accent.
Yeah.
All his crazy antics.
All his voices.
Interviews himself.
Yeah.
It's my favorite part.
I love it.
What
Well, let me.
do you think of that? Just to randomly interview yourself.
Yeah. I try doing bits on my own and they don't work. I can't do it. So I'm gonna let John do it. He does a good job.
You do the quizzes. You're like the quiz master. You got that format.
I can do the quizzes. I'm doing a quiz show for the Conway Public Library. We're doing a wait style show.
A what style?
Like, wait, don't tell me.
No.
You've never heard of wait, don't tell me?
No.
Love it. Oh, it's NPR news quiz. It's really fun. Yeah, but anyway, so we're putting together a live version, library, local, low budget version.
Like a virtual? Because the library's not open, right?
The library is open for curbside pickup. So, but we'll be doing it over Zoom, or I might use StreamYard. I like the platform a little bit better.
The video quality I'm getting from Zoom is not all that. People are like, let's put it up on YouTube, and it works. It's just that's not what it's meant for.
I'll tell you what Zoom makes me angry is when I'm watching TV at night, and the shows I want to watch are using Zoom, and shitty microphones, and you think the whole time like these are large production companies. They have the technology.
Oh, Jimmy Kimmel or whatever.
Any of those guys, they have the technology to do a great show using higher end technology, but they're using the same crap I'm using. I'm like, I watch TV because I want to see people better than me. I don't want to see me. I want better. I want
better,
interesting, better looking.
I think it's the solidarity. You're one of us.
Yeah,
I can relate to being quarantined.
Yeah, I don't want that. I'm gonna check the date. Maybe I had the wrong date.
Where's John? John King, are you out there? Help us.
Let's see.
John, get John on the horn. ASAP. Drop what you're doing.
Tuesday the 19th, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. That's what his people has sent me for the date and time. And I said, yes, let's do that. Perfect.
There's Tim Beat commented Cleveland and Dayton. He lives in two places?
I think he was talking about the river on fire. That was like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't know what to do if he doesn't show up. So we just give him till 3:30 and then bag.
I took a shower and I put on clothes.
And makeup. You look beautiful.
That's pretty rare for working at home. I always work at home. I never get dressed.
No. Always pants free.
Yeah. And shirtless.
I think Paul Chomo is watching. Paul Chomo from Varmints.
Paul's another one that does like 8,000 things at once.
Or I think he spends all day on a computer at work listening to podcasts. I don't think he has a job. I think he gets paid. Well, he has a job, but I don't think he has to produce anything.
Yeah, I wonder. He must be a programmer, either sales or programming, because doesn't he work something tech? Isn't he in some kind of IT?
He told me once, but I'm a poor listener, so I don't remember.
Well, we can go over the Fish Nerds podcast page. Let's see.
We could.
Dan Williams got some nice crappie. I found whatever Tim was building, those artificial reefs are really expensive if you buy them. I
know, but they're just like crappy black pipe, like plumbing pipe put into a bucket.
$239. I didn't realize a 12-pack was $1,899. You can buy them by the 12s.
12?
Honey hole trees, they're called. Attract game fish and increase spawning. Can be suspended from the bottom. Includes 93 flexible snag-free limbs. Oh, snag-free, so you can get your lure through them. I see.
Right. So that black tubing, you can't hook on them. So it's perfect.
Oh, I wondered why they didn't just use Christmas trees.
Yeah, Christmas tree, you get snagged like crazy, right? So if your goal is create fish habitat for the fish's benefit, they're a terrible invention. If it's create habitat for the fishermen, it's perfect.
No, we don't care about fish.
No.
I was trying to explain to my nephews, like, what happens when they deep throat the hook and it doesn't come out and there's blood and we throw it back in and it didn't swim. And like, did we hurt it? I'm like, yeah.
Now, did you mention if you pour Mountain Dew over their gills, they stop bleeding and let them go?
No, I did not, because the kids would take the Mountain Dew and drink it because they seem to love soda more than anything in the world, and it just perplexes me. I'm like, it's just bubble water with sugar.
It's not so good.
It's not that be all end all, is it?
Well, how old are you?
46 or 47.
Do you recall being 11?
Yeah.
Soda was a treat.
Kind of. I guess because my dad drank Diet Pepsi.
The best.
And I think then I had saccharin. It didn't have NutraSweet, saccharin, or some other weird flavored sugar.
Love me some saccharins.
Sweet and lows.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to show up.
Yeah, I don't either, because this is a weird time now.
I know. I could have been on the boat.
Where are his people?
I don't know. He's in Colorado, which means he's stoned.
1:15 in Colorado, Tuesday, May 19th.
Mountain. Got it all right. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you get on his people?
I'm going to email his people.
Send him a big frowny face emoji.
I love that. Let's see. Her name. So his people. Her name is Christine. I'm not going to say her last name, and she's from Simon & Schuster.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, hey, you want to publish my book?
And say, hey, are we going to do this thing, or do we have to give out your cell phone number and have all the nerds attack it, blow it up? Would that be bad?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that would be bad. We miss John. Blow up the phone. I mean, I did. I got all prettied up. I put on a nice shirt. Looks just like yours.
Well, I'm glad you're in uniform. You're effing uniform.
I smell good.
Yeah, I can even socially, I can protect you.
I'm still trying to figure out how to. They make me hot, those things.
Well, the actual cotton masks that my daughter made, I do not like wearing them.
Oh, okay.
But this isn't too bad.
I just mean in general, a buff around my neck makes me hot, and then I get angry when I get hot.
Well, you won't like me when I'm angry.
I get grumpy.
What I don't want to do is I want to figure out if I can source these affordably.
Yeah, good luck.
This company, Hoorag, who makes these, my unit cost is $10 a piece.
Oof.
And it's a crappy little piece of fabric sewn into a circle.
But it's a genuine Hoorag.
It's a genuine, but I'm not sure that matters. And I'm not sure no one cares.
I think I have a cheap one, and it does matter. The cheap ones are weird.
The ones, I like the company Buff makes a higher quality one than this, but I couldn't figure out how to get my logo on those guys. But this was $10 a piece, and I had to buy 50 of them. So into $500, and people don't buy the swag, so you end up just
free.
Yeah,
make it free. People like free.
People do like free, but free doesn't pay any bills. Doesn't pay hosting fees, and
it's funny how trained people are to like free.
Mm-hmm.
I'll wear it if it's free.
Yeah. Oh, got an email. Oh, she's sending it to him now. You didn't even say. She's.
Oh, we're so important. We are somebody.
Okay, then.
I'll send it to him now.
We are running ready for him.
Meanwhile, he's got a big fat doobie on the couch. Colorado, moose outside. What? No, antelope. What are the big? Colorado has everything, right?
It does have everything. His very big nature in Colorado.
He's got bears in his yard doing backflips, circus tricks.
I think he lives near a little brook. There was a chapter in his book called, I think, "Fishing Close to Home" or something like that. I don't like reading the books on the Kindle because I can't mark them up. I have to
Wait, you take notes when you read?
I highlighted stuff, but I can't find the page. It's like you can't mark the pages.
Do you do that with all your books or just podcast? books.
If I'm interviewing somebody, I like to read the book and make
Take notes.
But I make notes on the book.
Yeah, right.
Like yellow sticky things. I don't make notes on pieces of paper. So I don't have good notes. I'm gonna blame Simon Schuster.
Yeah.
John, I'd have a better interview set up for you, but Simon Schuster sucks. They didn't send me any books.
They sent me this book, but it's electronic. I don't know how to read.
Can you sign this?
Can you take a screen grab of me holding this and scrawl on it with Microsoft Paint? Scribble. What are you drinking?
Iced coffee. Yeah.
Not iced bourbon coffee?
No, I don't do much day drinking. My wife doesn't tolerate it.
It's one of my quality rules of life. I don't do much day drinking.
No. I mean, if it's hot out and I'm doing yard work, a beer at 2 p.m, is nice. Yeah.
I don't do the day drinking.
Yeah. Well, I think if it was more tolerated in my house, I would.
Yeah, I can remember many years ago, college, like you're in the bar and whatever, St. Patrick's Day, you go wicked early, you stumble out at noon and the world is so bright and you're kind of like, what have I been doing?
Yeah.
I've been indoors and ruining my life. And then you're like, oh, look, another bar. And then day's over. Yeah, not a good thing.
No, but fun. We once when I was like in my mid-20s, we once tried to do a 24-hour drink fest where we just tried to maintain drunk for 24 hours. That's really hard.
Right, because you'll pass out eventually. Or
exactly.
Fall down.
Yeah, and then you got to get up and you got to get up and drink.
Oh, then your hangover, like just oof.
Yeah, we didn't do well with it. We ended up all just not feeling good.
Worst time ever. We were drunk for a day straight, and it sucked.
John's coming on right now.
All right.
So, there he is. All right. Boom. Did it work?
I don't see anybody. Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Wait, I see Clay connecting. There's John.
His audio is connecting, and he should be good to go.
I'm here.
Hi, John. How's it going?
How are you?
Good to see you again.
Yeah, well, here we are.
Here we are, yeah.
A little snafu with the Zoom link, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I had my people call your people. We figured it
exactly,
out.
Yeah. Thank God we both got people. Nothing would ever get done.
Yeah, I am my people. John, with me is Rich Collins on the Zoom here. He is our fly fishing correspondent.
Hey, John. Good.
He helps me. I don't speak the language of fly fishing, so he helps translate fly fishing to modern English so I can understand what you're saying.
As long as you can swear like a trucker, you'll get by.
Bingo. And I don't actually catch fish. I just harass them.
Yeah, right.
I look good. I've got the form down, but the catching part I haven't mastered. They laugh at me.
Yeah, so it's good to see you, John. So I got a little interview set up with you. I read most of your book, but yesterday I scheduled time to finish reading it, and I had a plumbing issue in my rental property. I had to replace a pump in my rental well. So instead of reading about fly fishing, I was fishing lines.
Well, at least it involved water.
Yeah, definitely water.
One step away from fish.
John, I've been struggling with one thing though. Like, how do you say your last name?
It's Gierach.
Gierach. Told you.
Gierach.
Just picture in your mind a gear and a rock.
I got it now.
Yeah.
Is that Germanic? Is that Gierach?
They tell me it's Austrian.
Okay, I was close.
But I think that was my grandparents told me that. And I think that came up during the war when it wasn't great to be German. So I think suddenly we became Austrians.
Aha! The old switcheroo.
I think it's German. Between us, it's
Germanic. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So your new book, John. I'm going to back up a little before I talk about your book. We had you on the show 3 years ago, almost to this very day, talking about your previous book, and and I had a fun time with you, but the audio wasn't great. So I'm excited to have you on the Zoom here, so we'll get a little better quality. But 3 years to the day, and you've got a new book out called Dumb Luck and the Kindness of Strangers, and we're pretty excited about it. Have you got any feedback yet from readers, or is that not out yet for the public?
Well, it's sort of out and sort of not. They changed. The original publication date was April 20th, I think. Mm-hmm. And when, all the coronavirus stuff happened and suddenly everybody had to go home and everything was canceled, they moved the publication date to June 2nd.
Right.
However, in the confusion, some books went out to suppliers. And so they're kind of out there.
But it's like a soft release.
Sort of not. Yeah, soft release, exactly.
Yeah.
Soft opening.
Yeah. So this book tour is going to be very different for you this time.
Well, yeah, it is. It's all on screen. I haven't left my office,
But you get to still get out and fit. You're in Colorado, so you're not homebound. You're able to get outside and do some stuff, right?
I am. Technically, we were locked down, sheltering in place, and the rule was where you could go out for essential business. You could go to the grocery store, you could go to the pharmacy, you could go to a liquor store or a pot shop, which in
Colorado.
Interesting.
Or outdoor recreation within 10 miles of home.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
And within 10 miles of home, or 12, I mean, nobody's following me, right?
No,
maybe.
Not there. Haven't seen any black helicopters, but there's plenty of fishing. It's not the best time of year, so I've been kind of relegated to our local tailwater, but it's blue olive time, so I've been out catching fish. Streams are crowded. Everybody's off work.
Right, yeah, it's really weird. It's like everybody's scared, but at the same time, everybody's like camaraderie on the water. It's interesting. People are friendlier, but paranoid at the same time.
We went out for opening day here in New Hampshire, and it was during the lockdown, but they didn't lock down fishing, and for trout ponds. And the one pond I went to, I didn't fish because my one fly rod broke in half this winter. But I went to watch, and the crowds were unbelievable. I know. I'm a stubborn spin caster, so I'm like, I don't need it anyway.
I'm just gonna watch from here, guys. Okay, fish. What did you find?
I found tons of people fishing, crowded together in a tiny little segment of the lake. So yeah, but they were catching fish, so that was fun. So John, I put together. So I want to ask you about, first of all, my favorite chapter in your book is the fishing dogs chapter.
Because a lot of people like that.
Yeah, both Rich and I both fish with our dogs all the time. Mm-hmm. I have a blue heeler, so when I was reading about the blue heeler in that, I was thinking, John would love to hang out with my dog. Now, you wouldn't like Rich's dogs very much, though. Because
my dogs are a-holes. I don't know
if you fish with Rich and his dogs, if you catch a fish, rather than try to eat the fish, they try to hump you.
No, they try to hump you.
Yeah.
Little dominance. There's a little dominance in my dog family. One tries to eat the fish and the other just tries to take advantage of whoever he can and be the alpha. So
yeah, interesting.
They love to fish, but they just have a different dynamic than your typical dog.
Yeah, well, dogs can be great fun to fish with, or they can be horrible to fish with. And my friend Mike Dvorak in Minnesota has a great dog named Moose. And Moose is really a good fishing dog. I mean, he's one of the rare, great fishing dogs. He doesn't try to retrieve the fish. He just basically watches. And if he finds something really smelly, he'll roll in it. But he's just a dog, but he's not in the way. And he's good company. He's easier to talk to than Mike is.
I bet he is.
Because he listens.
Oh,
because he's been trained. You should have trained your kids.
I use it as an excuse why I don't catch big fish or any fish. I just say, because I brought the dogs and they scared everything away.
Yeah.
Works pretty good.
I believe it.
I used to fish with a border collie named Abby, and she loved ice fishing, and she would sit by the ice fishing hole watching her little fishing rod, and when the rod tip bent, she would dance and scream and go completely insane. And then we'd reel a fish in and let it go, and she would shove her face down under the ice and try to recatch the fish we released. Yeah, so reading that chapter kind of got me in that mode of like how cool it is to bring those dogs out with you.
It's the best. I'd rather just have the dogs out on a stream and look at fish or look at something than even catch fish. Sometimes it's really, I don't know why. I don't know what makes it special just to have a critter there watching you, but it is actually
less lonely.
It is. It's nice. I tend to, when I'm fishing, I'm perfectly capable of sitting on the bank and drinking coffee or resting a pool, but I'm kind of there to fish. I mean, kind of there to at least try and catch a fish.
Yeah, well, reading your book, I'm amazed by your fishing stamina, because like I'm reading about you fishing until like all day long, right past dark into midnight, and for me, I'm like 3 hours in. I'm like, kind of had enough, but remarkable
30 minutes. 32 minutes. Yeah. If they aren't biting, Clay goes home fast.
Rich, that's why I guide, is because I actually like to watch people fish more than catching myself.
That's the advancement of your knowledge when you no longer participate and you just educate or watch others. That means you've mastered the sport, right?
It must.
So and then my other thing I really wanted to talk about was in your bluegill redneck story, which was my favorite of all the 13 chapters I read of your book. That was my favorite one because I love fishing bluegill and bass and all that. And you talk about something I've been talking about for years, which is the fish eggs traveling from pond to pond on the legs of fish. You want to tell us what on the legs of
fish?
The legs of birds.
Well, yeah, I know a lot of people who believe that, and it sounds plausible. But I've run it by a couple of biologists, and they say no, it doesn't happen. If there are fish in a pond, somebody put them there at some point.
Yeah, they had to get there. Now, I actually did some research on this. You might like this, John. So they actually did real scientific studies on to see if, like, I think they did with catfish eggs. Can catfish eggs travel on the legs of geese? And I'm not even making this up. This is a real thing. They took actual dead geese feet, and they had a certain amount they were testing, and they put them in a controlled environment in the eggs of these fishes, and they moved them around to see how many eggs carried with them, to see if there's any plausibility to whatsoever. You want to know what they found?
I would say they found it didn't work.
That's exactly right. Completely. But everyone, like in every part of the country, has that story where people believe that to be a thing.
Yeah. The only thing, I wonder about frogs, because frog eggs are really sticky, and they're in gobs, and they stick to the weeds and stuff. And I could see if some wading animal got those on them and went to another pond, I could see how that might work.
Yeah, I can see how that can work too. But frogs have a easier, they can travel anyway on the land.
Yeah, they can hop over there too.
Yeah, no one's wondering, how do frogs get, to the next pond?
Perch get in every body of water, right? Like it's inevitable. I don't know that people stock perch illegally right?
A yellow perch?
Yeah, they're everywhere. Perch and sunfish, like bass, I get because they want trophy fish, but.
Yeah, but bass, in that warm water ecosystem, some friends and I had a pond out here that we didn't own it, but the owner said, if you want to, she didn't fish. She said, if you guys want to stock it and fish in it, fine. And that's part of the formula. And if you want bass, you got to have bluegills or something like them, because they multiply like rabbits, and there's something for the bass to eat.
Oh, so it's like a real illegal stalker knows the formula.
Well,
this wasn't illegal. This was perfectly legal.
Oh yeah, in a
But-
private pond.
Yeah, I mean, you need an ecosystem. You got to have something for the bass to eat.
Yep. When they brought bass to New Hampshire, there's a book you can read called Bassing in New Hampshire, and it was like in 1890s. They strategically brought all your sunfish up together. So your largemouth bass, smallmouth bass,
Yeah.
crappie, bluegills, pumpkin seeds, all together.
Yep.
Yep. For that very reason, just you got to feed the fishes. And ever since then, trout fishermen have been killing bass.
They're invasive. They're invasive.
Yeah. You also, I love the idea in that chapter. One of my favorite kind of like just one-liners is the idea of inviting a bass home for dinner. I like that kind of really comfortable line. Do bass anglers get on you for eating bass?
It's never happened. I don't really know that many bass fishermen. I know when I was in Texas years ago fishing some bass tanks down along the Mexican border with this bunch of local guys that had a club down there, and I remember them telling me to catch some of them little 5-pounders so we can eat them.
Eating size.
Perfect.
So yeah, I actually, most of the bass fishermen I know how to make beer battered bass fillets. So I don't see how they could get on me for killing one now and again. I'm
glad you said the beer batter fillet. I was actually going to ask you how you cooked your bass. A beer batter fillet is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another way is just mix sort of wheat flour and cornmeal and some spices together and just roll them in that and fry them in a pan. So they don't have that layer of batter on them, but they're kind of crispy. And God, you're making me hungry now.
Oh, their bass are delicious and I think underrated as a table fish. I think people in New England generally don't eat bass. We're very protective of our bass up here.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing to me. And if you post on like the Facebook groups, you eating bass, they will blow up on you and lose their gourd over you. But it makes it more fun anyway. What's your favorite bass fly?
Oh, it would be the that Whitlock swimming frog.
Oh, is that a floater?
Yeah, well, it's kind of based on the Dahlberg diver. It's got that reverse cupped face with a flare. So
yeah. So it moves the water.
It floats, but when you give it a pull, it dives a little bit and then floats back to the surface.
Like a muddler minnow, versatile.
Yeah, a really good way to fish that. My friend Ed Engel taught me this. You get an old sink tip line and you cut off all but about 3 feet of the sink tip and then tie your leader and your diver on top of that. And you flip it up against the bank and let the sink tip belly down and then give it a long pull and the fly just dives down.
So it runs right along the contour of the bottom.
Right down and swims along the bottom and then slowly floats back up. It's deadly.
That's what they can't take, the weakness point of the float.
Well, bass are like cats. I mean, sometimes you throw a fly out there and let it sit and they'll come over and look at it. I've seen this happen. They'll come over and look at it and all you have to do is jiggle it a little bit and they'll eat it. It's like playing with a cat with a string.
And they're moody sometimes. They're like, nope, don't know why, maybe.
Yeah.
You ever pike fish with fly? Yeah. That's one thing we've been trying. We've only got like 8 pike in the whole state, but we go up and try to harass them on a
not 8
fly.
spots, John. 8 pike.
8 actual pike. They don't like pike around here, but they do exist. But on a fly, there's a few of us that go out and try to catch them, and boy, is that fun.
I should tell you, John, that Rich hasn't read your book. There is a whole chapter in there on muskie fishing.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
I couldn't get a copy. It wasn't out, but I guess it was.
Yeah, muskie are just they're just deluxe pike.
Yeah.
Same family, look very similar, except that pike tend to be pretty aggressive and muskies tend to be, I don't know what. It's hard to talk a muskie into biting.
finicky, more finicky.
Yeah.
So why do we love trout over these giant monster fish?
That's a great question.
Well, I have a soft spot for trout because I have a soft spot for fly fishing. And fly fishing really is about trout. All this other stuff came along later. When I took up fly fishing, it was trout, salmon, and steelhead.
Right. Yeah.
That was it. Nobody fished for anything else. And when I was fishing bass and panfish with a fly rod, all my fancy fly fishing friends started calling me grits.
Grits.
You know, they didn't get it. But, you know, Dave Whitlock was doing that, and I picked up on him early on. Colorado is not great warm water fishing. It doesn't have great bass and bluegills. It's got them. But
why do we pine over trout so much? I always think it's the environment, flowing rivers, cooler environment. I don't know, but why do we do that?
There is something about it. When you hold them, like you feel like you're holding something different. I don't know why. Like I'm with you. Like I like catching trout. I get excited about every trout I ever caught, but I can't place why I like them so much. Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know either. You'd think I'd have more to say about that after some years, but I
thanks for
just don't.
nothing. Yeah.
Just, well, you know, they're awfully pretty.
They are beautiful.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's probably the prettiest fish in fresh water. And there's just this whole mythology, 5-century-old mythology built up around fly fishing for trout. And that's kind of...
And the insects,
irresistible.
They tend to be insect feeders, though, of course, they'll feed on anything, but the bigger, the game fish tend to be more like ambush predators on minnows and stuff, right? So I think the fly itself is more critical with trout, but that could be debated, I'm sure.
Well, not to mention that if you're a fish writer, the people love reading about trout. I mean, that's if you look at the genre of fish writing, fly fishing books, trout books, those are the books people want to look at the most. You know, people are buying a lot of bass books. Yeah, that whole mythology.
Well, bass, you know, all the other stuff, at least until very recently, was sort of dominated by gear guys. And God, when Tom McGuane and Jim Harrison and those guys got into fly fishing saltwater, nobody was doing it. They were, you know, everybody thought they were just a bunch of crazy hippies and would never catch anything.
And then they proved it works.
Well, they were right about the crazy hippie part, but they were wrong about not catching anything.
All good stories start with a bunch of crazy hippies went out and ...
Yeah,
that's your,
at least started in the 60s, yeah.
That's your writing prompt for going forward. Start every chapter out there. Now, I was fishing with public radio, and I was interviewing them afterwards. And one of the reporters, Sam Evans Brown, from New Hampshire Public Radio, said to me, and I have this on tape, he says, "Can I call bullshit on something?" And he was calling bullshit on fly fishing sections of rivers. And his statement was, he thinks that fly fishing only segments of rivers are designed to keep the poor masses off the water. And I kind of wanted to get your take on that concept, John. What do you think about that? And that's what an NPR reporter saying that.
Yeah, there may be something to it.
Yeah.
Usually the reasoning they use for fly fishing only, well, there's very little fly fishing only. What we have out here and through most of the West is flies and lures only, single hook, maybe catch and release or maybe slot limit or something, but the technical possibility of not hurting the fish. So you've got a barbless hook, barbless single hook, you can release them.
The mortality.
Yeah.
Well, that was the case he was making. He was saying, like in New Hampshire, we have fly fishing only. We have single hook barbless on some sections. He was saying, does a fish care if you're fly fishing with the single hook barbless or lure fishing with a single hook barbless? Does the fish care or do they just not want to be caught?
Yeah. Well, he should come to Colorado and fish because that's out here. It's flies and lures.
Yeah.
And, you know, no treble hooks. as I recall. I mean, it's been so long since I fished that way, I don't even pay attention to the regs anymore. But it's generally no bait because they take bait too deep.
Right, kills them.
Swallow it. Yeah.
And but yeah, I in places where there are fly fishing only waters, I can't remember where I have seen that, but I think maybe I saw some in New Hampshire. There might have been some in Maine.
Yeah, I think you got to talk to Yankees here because we pay for our licenses and we want to try to get fish that the guys aren't harvesting for food. So they set up these little artificial play areas, fly fishing only, and we all flock to them and stand there with our fly rod.
Yeah, it might be an Eastern thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because there's only so many in the way they migrate. I think they do a lot of stocking in those areas too, of the bigger fish, and they want them to not be harvested because they cost $20-$30 or something to grow. I'm guessing now that I'm hearing your side.
They can't be cheap.
No, might be a Yankee thing. I never thought of it that way. Fly fishing only sections.
Yeah, but anyway, he was really bothered by that. We talked a long time about that concept, and he really thought it was just trying to keep poor people off the water. Is what he kind of looked at it as.
Well, it might have that. It might have that effect. You know, one of the things that struck me about the fly fishermen in Maine is that, because you do see that out west here, with the exception of the occasional surviving old timer with his flies in a Prince Albert tobacco tin in his hip pocket. The fly fishermen tend to at least aspire to be a little more upscale. Well, the bait and spinner guys aren't. But I noticed, I remember that from Maine, is that people you would never out in the West spot as fly fishermen were fly fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's just how they fish. That's how the grandpa fished. It's how dad fished. It's how you catch brook trout and landlocked salmon, and it's just how you do it.
That is true. Yeah, Maine has a tradition of the sporting camps and all the things that were fly fishing, and they have native brook trout, so it must be it is a tradition thing. And then they can whip out the chug-a-lug plugs and throw just as well and run the bass boats, but they all seem to know how to fly fish in their back pocket, whether they do it or not.
When we were down in Texas that time, those guys were all gear fishermen. And when they saw we were fly fishing, they all broke out their own fly rods. And they were really good with those too. I mean, they were just fishermen. They fished however they needed to fish to get them.
Yeah, I'll do that sometimes. I'll get my fly rod out just so I'm not the only one feeling like I feel a little inadequate sometimes with my spinning gear. So I see a fly rod, I'm like, I'll do it, fine.
Which is why my dog humped you. You felt weak and he saw vulnerability. Clay caught a fish and he was all excited, and Scout came up and gave him the business. Photos.
Spotted the vulnerability. They're good at that.
That's it. Yeah.
I will say that I am a more effective fly fisher for perch, panfish, and crappies than I am for like the 4 trout I've ever caught on a fly. So
I think you're more lakes and ponds, right? To be real, trout I always think of as rivers, fast moving waters, wading. I guess that's a tradition, but they're in the lakes that you fish and you do catch them. But I think it's more about the wading when you talk about fly fishing.
Yeah, again, there's a big tradition behind flowing water, and out west, we get in Mackenzie drift boats and float these big rivers. But I've done some great trout fishing in lakes. You get trout in a spring-fed lake that's just full of scuds and damselflies and bait fish and all that stuff, and you catch big old strong fish.
They get less spooky sometimes in those lakes. They just go on feeding frenzies.
Yeah. Well, still water's harder to read than rivers because the current kind of outlines what the bottom structure's like. But yeah, you can figure out the lake. I grew up fishing lakes in the Midwest and up in Minnesota, so I know how to figure out a lake, or at least make a good shot at it.
Yeah, and if you get to a lake when it's like first thing in the morning before the wind picks up, you can see where the trout are. I mean, they'll give themselves away. They'll tell you. So you could find them. Hey, we got some Fish Nerds listeners who have a few questions for you, John, if you don't mind.
All right, shoot.
All right, Tim Beat from Ohio. He says, John, you once wrote, if people don't occasionally walk away from you shaking their heads, you're doing something wrong. What thing have you done that made people shake their heads the most?
Well, early on, people couldn't, and I mean early, like in the 70s, people couldn't get their head around that you were releasing your fish. And I think that, I don't remember even what book that was in, but I think that's where that came from because, God, I just remember, I was a kid with long hair and probably a tie-dyed t-shirt out there fly fishing and releasing trout. And I just remember these old guys coming up and saying, well, you mean you just throw them back?
It's
Sorry
for
about
me.
that.
It's your
Calling on the
publisher.
other line.
Did you get on the Fish Nerds?
That was me called that question in. That'll stop in a minute.
We'll give it
Yeah, I've got some nephews that I've been teaching to fish, and they say the same thing. Like, well, you just send it back? Why? Why don't you eat it?
Yeah. All right. Are we done?
Oh, and they hang up. Come
it's already
on.
good.
It was a salesman, right?
Used car warranty.
Yeah. Somebody trying to sell me a washing machine or something.
Yeah. Well, it's the funny thing about catch and release and about fishing in general is it's hard to explain to people if they don't get that joy of catching and holding a fish and letting it go. It doesn't make sense.
And there's people, non-fishermen who think you're throwing them back dead.
Right.
Right. And
Well,
they actually get really incensed, and it's great fun to say, no, watch here, see, he swims away, he's fine.
Yeah. You should, though, once in a while throw away a dead fish in front of them and pretend it's fine.
And make them shake their heads. This would work.
Yeah.
Actually, this is true. Back to dogs. My dog a few years ago, before my previous dog, Abby, the one who liked to ice fish, we lived on a lake for a while, and I once caught a fish and released it, and it went belly up and floated down where I couldn't get it to like revive it. And I said, she was a big dog into fetching, and I said, go get it. And she swam out and got that fish and gently carried it back to me. I was able to revive it and let it go. So one time ever, she was useful.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So it can happen. John King, the crappie hippie from Kansas, wants to know, have you ever caught a gar on the fly?
No, but not for lack of trying. I was out in Kansas, somewhere around Wichita years ago, trying to catch them, and couldn't do it. We were fishing for long-nosed gar. They had this really bony mouth and a bazillion little tiny teeth, but you can't hook. A hook won't sink. So you take a length of rope, a couple inches long, white nylon rope, and you take a knife and you fray it all up, and you tie that on the end of your leader, and when they grab it, their teeth get tangled in it and they can't let go.
I've heard of this.
Interesting. So it's like a finger trap, but for their little jaws.
It's sort of like a Chinese finger puzzle. But it was just, we drove out there and it wasn't really happening. Every once in a while you'd see one, and you'd see them break the surface now and again. The water was real muddy. Just didn't work. And I never did try it again, but I wouldn't mind doing it. I mean, it was interesting.
Yeah, and anything new is always interesting.
Yeah.
John, you do have an open invite, John King from Eastern Kansas, to, if you ever want someone to fish with, he did invite you down. So
Keep it in mind.
yeah,
When you're itching to fish Kansas.
I can't wait to go to Kansas. No one ever said that. No.
The brook trout capital of the Americas.
I hear they got that
Kansas.
brown water down there. So I want to play a little game with you. I pulled some John Gierach quotes and some other fishing quotes, and I'm going to read them to you, John. No, I'll read them to you, and I'll read one to Rich Collins. We'll go back and forth, and you tell me, are these John Gierach quotes or not? So you have to recognize your own writing.
Dig deep in the memory banks.
Yeah. Are you game?
Shoot.
All right. So this first one's for you. Let's see. If you fish the wrong fly long and hard enough, it will sooner or later become the right fly. Did you say that?
Yes.
Yeah, he knows himself. All right, Rich, this one's for you. Did John say this? If people concentrated on the really important things in life, there would be a shortage of fishing poles.
No.
No, he did not say that. That's a Doug Larson quote.
Yeah.
Ah.
All right, John, did you say this? If fishing is a religion, fly fishing is high church.
No.
No, that's Tom Brokaw.
Oh, that was a good one.
I'm not surprised you know your own self. All right, how about this one, Rich? Really, the only thing a psychiatrist can do that a good fishing guide can't is write prescriptions.
Yes.
Did John say that? John did say that.
I have a couple books, John. I don't have the new one, but I've enjoyed your work.
Good for you.
How about this one, John? There's a fine line between fishing and standing on the shore like an idiot.
No, I don't think they said that.
No, you did not. Stephen Wright said that one.
That said, yeah, I've heard that.
That's a classic. Here's one for you, Rich. Lawyers are like nuclear weapons. By all rights, they shouldn't exist. But if some people have them, then you better have one too, just in case.
That doesn't have anything to do with fishing.
So?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. John doesn't seem like a guy that really likes lawyers. Unless they're fish. I'm going to say no.
John, did you say that?
Yeah, I did.
You
Shoot.
Yeah.
See, you got me with the non-fishing stuff.
If you read that passage carefully, it doesn't compliment lawyers.
Right.
It compares them to weapons of mass destruction.
But not bottom feeders.
Not bottom feeders, no.
That's too easy.
All right. Got me on that one.
All right, last one, John, for the win here. Fishing in rainy conditions may make fishermen seem crazy to the great mass of unimaginative people, but then few fishermen care what they think.
I think I might have said that.
I think you did.
Yeah.
I think you did. You know, I've done this before with other authors who didn't know what they said. So,
Have you really?
John got a perfect score.
well, he should. That means even even in Colorado, with all the pot smoking availability and alcohol available during the pandemic, he can still remember what he wrote.
I can't even remember what I did yesterday, so I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't been locked down too tightly in New Hampshire. The state's been locked down, but we've been able to go out and fish and play and have a good time. So
Definitely.
So with your new book coming out, John, your book tour from home, what are you looking forward to next?
Well, I'm looking forward to trying to figure out how I can be a fly fishing and travel writer who can't travel. That's going to be fascinating.
Not Zoom. Zoom won't do it for you.
Zoom is not. I mean, it's fine for this, but somehow it wouldn't be the same. Yeah, I mean, I think that, plus, whenever this is over, just getting back to real life. But that's going to be an interesting proposition. We've kind of opened up the shelter in place thing now with all kinds of provisions and limitations, but it's going to be a long time before I get on an airplane again.
Right. That's
But I can pretty easily hop in the car and drive. I'm on the east slope of the northern Colorado Rockies. I can drive to the west slope in, I don't know, hour and a half. Wyoming is right up there. So I can get to Wyoming pretty quickly. And
they're okay with you crossing the border and not quarantining for 2 weeks before you fish?
Well, actually, last I heard, they weren't selling out-of-state licenses.
Really?
But that's going to change. Washington was another one. Washington State, they weren't selling out-of-state licenses.
Yeah, I think they might have stopped fishing. Didn't they outlaw fishing for a bit?
They did. They barred fishing.
It's crazy.
Boo.
Like they didn't. I never heard an explanation of why. fishing is all about social distancing.
Not in Washington. Have you been fishing in the Puget Sound, like around Seattle and stuff?
No,
Like
I
on the
haven't.
piers, and it's people crowded out. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've done a lot of fishing out in Washington State, and it can be even when you think you're alone, people show up, and boom. And as big a state as that is, the in New Hampshire, I found out yesterday just opened up guiding again, but I forgot that I didn't notice they closed us. So
I didn't either. I heard that too, and I'm like,
got-
we closed it.
we got a governor message saying guided fishing is now back on the table. I'm like, oh, no one told, no one told me. Luckily, the
don't know what to
lockdown
do.
happened between seasons, so it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going to be guiding this summer. I think, John. I think this summer I am. When guiding for me, it's a very hands-on. I touch people a lot, not badly, but
Whoa.
I don't know if I could guide and socially distance myself from people. It's gonna be really hard summer.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's hard to tie somebody's fly on when you're 6 feet away from them.
Well, they can point the rod at you and shake it around.
Yeah, I suppose. But
Yeah. Now, John, in your book, there's on each chapter heading, there's these illustrations. Is that your work?
no, that's Glenn Wolfe.
Glenn Wolfe.
He lives in Traverse City, Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and God, he's illustrated. I think all my books for Simon and Schuster, to go back to Sex, Death, and Fly Fishing. So
That's one I have.
yeah, everybody has that one. All men.
I know. It's so basic now.
I don't have it.
It's a good seller, and somebody told me it's because women and daughters who are looking for Father's Day and birthday gifts for their dads see that and go, well, we got to get this for Dad.
Mm.
So
Do you title your own books, or is that the marketing department at Simon Schuster?
I title them, and usually my title gets through, but every once in a while we have a discussion. And
Were there any bombs? Were there? It just didn't work. Like, did they try to change?
well, I don't know. I feel like they work because only because all the books are still in print. But I mean, even back as far as Trout Bum, the publisher was he didn't like the title.
Oh, really? I love
Yeah.
that title.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the time I was 30 and he was 75.
Oh, so
And
you weren't.
I think he was one of those old time fly fishing guys with the kind of English tweed and cane attitude.
Hatches on his elbows.
Yeah, it probably, yeah.
A gilly. Reminds me.
Great guy, by the way. And I prevailed. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a knockdown drag out
Crushed
or
him.
anything, but I remember years later, guy's dead now, but years later I was in a cafe in Boulder, and I saw him across the room, waved at him, and he walked over and put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "By the way, you were right about Trout Bum," and walked away.
That's a win. And that book kind of defined, your whole genre, right? I think that's when people talk about you, that book seems to come up. Oh, the Trout Bum himself,
Yeah.
it worked in that sense. So congratulations. By the way, congratulations on making a career in the fishing writing world. I mean, that on its own is a remarkable feat. The fact that you can, live so lavishly on your writing.
Yeah. The estates and the private helicopters. Yeah.
100 people.
Oh, yeah, you can travel to fly fish. You've got your copter. Your
Yeah.
Batmobile.
Somebody, I wish I remember who it was, but somebody said of outdoor writing, it's not much of a living, but it's a hell of a life.
That's
I'm gonna
perfect.
have to figure out who said that.
You did.
Right. Well, I'm gonna quote
I
you.
did just now, but it's a quote from somebody.
Yeah,
Well,
that makes sense.
it's a good quote, and for those people like me who aspire to make any kind of money in the outdoor world, seeing someone like you who actually is how I would define successful, it's inspiring, John, and I really appreciate the work you do because of that.
Well, it's been fun, and there's times when it hasn't been fun, but overall, it's been fun to do. When you get up in your 70s, you're not as comfortable as you used to be living by your wits, because you're not sure you have them all still.
Especially in a social media video 3-second attention span world, it's a little different, huh?
Yeah,
It's
well,
hard to adapt.
Thank God I keep selling books, so there are still some people who can
Read.
and can sit down and read 70,000 words and not get distracted.
Whew.
It's a challenge. And reading, especially reading I don't usually read on the iPad.
Yeah.
I'll read a chapter, then I'll look at a video somewhere, and I'll forget that I was reading a book. I think that's the difference between reading now and then. Also, I like to take a book outside and sit outside and get it dirty and mark it up. And I've been writing all over my iPad, and it just ruined it.
Yeah.
Sharpies.
There's a guy, I think he's going to send me this book. I think he was in Oregon, but he wrote and said he had found a copy of Sex, Death, and Fly Fishing floating in a backwater. And he took it and he dried it out, and he said it's got like cased caddis in it, and
Whoa.
and it of course it's about 2 feet thick, and he wanted to send it to me so I could sign it for him. And I said, absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
Did he send it?
He's gonna.
Oh, okay.
Probably got confiscated by the U.S. mail. I looked at that.
Illegal insect peddling.
Invasive.
Yeah, well, presumably it's dry now.
Sounds gross, but I think it's really, really cool. But anyway, congratulations, John, on the new book. Do you have any last things you want people to know about this book? Why should they care?
Well, I don't know. They should care because I need to make a living.
That's a good reason.
Good enough.
But honestly, I think it's a good book. This is my 20th book,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to believe that they keep getting better. So I actually believe this is my best book yet, and others will make their own judgment. But that's what I think.
Well, I enjoyed what I've read so far, and I'm going to get through it. And what I like about your style of writing is that it feels like it's like a bunch of essays that kind of fit together. But I could skip it. Like if I want to go right to bluegills and read that chapter, I can go there, and it doesn't impact. For me, it doesn't impact the book. It's terrific.
Yeah, a guy once told me he liked my books because the chapters were just the right length to read on the toilet in the morning.
That might have been me.
Yeah,
It might have been every
guy
guy.
from New Hampshire, anyway.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, John. Rich, you got any final parting words for John?
Well, I don't know why I want to ask this, but I want to know what John's favorite fly rod is. Either type, size, weight. Like, is there anything that you love, or are you just not a rod guy? Is it a bamboo? Is there?
Oh, I'm definitely a rod guy. It's hard because I have a whole bunch of rods that I really like, and I had been fishing. We had this blue wing olive hatch for about a month, and I've been fishing a Mike Clark 7-foot 9-inch 5-weight, and because all the other fishermen were grabbing all the pools that were easy to fish, I ended up in the pocket water, which is great. Pocket water fishing is great. But I wanted more reach with the rod than I was getting from a 7-foot 9-inch. So I dug out an old Wright McGill Granger Victory, Granger Favorite, which is made in the, this one was probably made in the 50s and is right down the road in Denver. Great rods. And
So classic.
It's 8.5 foot long for a 4-weight line.
Hmm.
And I've been loving fishing it. I mean, I've fished it for the last couple of weeks. And at some point now,
is it graphite, bamboo, fiberglass?
It's bamboo.
Bamboo, so an old bamboo. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt compelled to ask you that because there's so many high-end rods now, but they all just throw line further, right? So people are starting to change what they want out of a rod. I thought it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and when I used to work in fly shops, people would come in and they want to try out a rod, and they always want the rod that they could cast the farthest.
Yes.
And I learned to go out and say, well, where do you fish? And they'd tell me a couple of places, and I'd say, well, do you ever cast that far there? And they'd say, well, no. And I'd say, well, let's get a rod that casts at the range you're used to fishing.
Sweet spot,
at,
yeah.
Because that's the rod you're going to be happiest with.
Yeah, a little finesse on the middle is always nice.
Yeah. The only time you need, distance is if you're fishing Pyramid Lake in Nevada, where you wade out armpit deep with a step ladder, climb to the top of the step ladder, and cast from there.
It's on my bucket list. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Or saltwater fishing.
Just as weird as you imagine.
Is that a real thing? You weren't making that up?
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not making that up.
Oh God.
If you go on, you look up pyramid fishing, look up fly fishing Pyramid Lake online, and the first thing you'll see is a picture of a line of guys on the top of step ladders.
Step ladders, yeah. It's kind of like the rigs they have at the Cape Cod Canal that they drag out every day to fish with. They have their ladder rigs, so they can spot.
Yeah, and they make special fishing ladders where it's got a handle and wheels and a cup holder, and so you can drag it down to the water. That's amazing. It's a whole little industry there.
Those are big native fish too, I think, right? Are they cutthroats or are they?
They're cutthroats. They're Lahontan cutthroats, and they get big. They catch, a couple of 20-pounders out of there every year. God. But your average fish is perfectly respectable. 20, 24 inches.
And you're on a ladder, so that adds 2 inches at least, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. I went cutthroat fishing last summer for the first time, and they would just jump over the flies. They would not eat the flies. They just right over them every time.
Interesting.
We were skittering flies across top of rapids in Washington State, and they were just jumping over them.
Were they denying them, or were they? They got pretty good aim. But
well, okay, I'll take it back. I wasn't fishing. My 12-year-old daughter was fly fishing for him. She was doing far better than anyone, so she had it worked out. One more quick question. It was a question for you from North Country Angler Fly Shop. They want to know how you feel about stocking trout on top of native trout.
Oh, not this question.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would rather people didn't do that because it's what happened to so many of our native trout out here is that they stocked rainbows on top of cutthroats, and the rainbows outcompeted the cutthroats, and the cutthroats are gone. And now people out here are scrambling to reestablish cutthroats 80, 100 years later.
It's too late.
So, in some cases it is too late. But, I'm not a fisheries biologist. And so there might be a good reason. But generally, native trout don't compete well with fish that haven't always been there.
That's about what I think too. Mostly, I'm tired of the question. I keep getting asked that over again.
Well, we have more people than we have habitat in the East, especially. It's just so populated that without stocking, we really can't sustain a solid fishery. So it's kind of a necessary evil, but it does so much damage that
I suppose it
makes you wonder.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I mean, all we had in the West, the Mountain West, was one kind or another of cutthroat. And now the vast majority of our good fishing is brown trout and rainbows.
Wow.
And so we wouldn't have much We had cutthroats. We had squawfish. Actually, they renamed them because you can't say squawfish anymore.
But you just did. Oh my God.
But
How
God,
did they rename them?
Wonder what will happen to me now.
Well,
I forget what the name
I have to look it up. I've never heard of this.
is.
Because it is verboten.
Pike minnows.
Pike minnows. That's what they
Yeah.
call them.
Yeah.
That
But they
rolls off the tongue.
They actually get really big. They are a minnow technically, but they get really huge. They used to catch them commercially, call them white salmon.
we have our big minnow in New Hampshire's fall fish, and we just love catching those guys up here. So we like big minnows.
Yeah, they're fun.
And they'll pick up a fly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anything that lives in water and doesn't have legs is fun to catch.
Perfect. All right, John. Well, we're going to let you go now, but we really appreciate your time today.
You bet.
And we'll put links up at fishnerds.com. I think if I ever get around to updating the website, and we'll link to your book there. So.
All right. Good to see you guys.
Hey,
pleasure meeting you. Pleasure talking to you. Good luck.
All right. Thanks.
Pure joy. Thank you. Bye.
Take it easy.
All right. The hard part is hanging up.
Disconnect.
Leave meeting. So long.
So long.
Bye.
All right. That was John Gierach.
That was cool.
Yeah. But I'm going to end the time here with you, Rich, in 1 minute. Do you want to give any thoughts on your time chatting with a fly fishing legend? Legend of Gierach?
It just brings up like his work, from what I know of it, just brings up sentiment, or I don't know what the right word is, but it brings up that cerebral part of fishing that you don't always talk about, especially if you're just out slamming big fish. And I think that's why I get so bored with like, look how big my fish is. Like, that's not even the point. Catching them, you're just reeling in a thing, right? It's the whole process. And he's really good at explaining that. But when I read about it, I'm like, no, I want to be there. I don't want to read about it. So
yeah.
But the whole process of fishing is a thing, and teaching my nephews now is making me realize that I don't care if I catch fish. I want to go fishing, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's what I get out of guiding is I like bringing people fishing. You know, I get a lot of joy out of just watching or teaching someone else to do it. But whenever I talk to people like John, I always feel like I'm not fly fishing nearly enough. I always feel so inadequate.
Yeah, it's a weird little thing that, I mean, I'm sure you get it. Spin fish. No, maybe you don't.
I don't know.
When it all clicks and you're just looking around and you're just looking up at the sky and you're watching the water and you hear everything. Yeah, it's like that early morning dawn thing when just everything's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the fly fishing that I think we talk about. But yeah, I don't know how you do your job, because like even when I take the kids, if they don't catch a fish, I turn into a puddle. I question everything about my life. Like, I suck. I don't know what fish do. They're just a dumb animal. I think of you going, fish are dumb and easy to fool. And then I'm like, why can't we catch one?
Yeah, well, it's worse as a guide because people are paying you hundreds of dollars, and if you can't put them on fish, you feel like they're all very forgiving. They're always like, well, that's why they call it fishing and all that crap. It breaks my heart. So I always think the most important fish of the day is the first fish.
Oh yeah.
You break that seal, you're good to go. You can, and then once you relax, you catch more fish.
Yeah,
because you're not overthinking anything.
Put people on the fish, but the people don't listen to how to catch the fish. So you're like, that's even worse. You're just gouging your eyes out. Like, come on.
That's very, very common. We've seen this winter. We had people on the ice lake trout fishing who would hook the fish and then not set the hook. And lake trout's hard enough to get to bite, and their line is bent over. And you say, just one time, lift up hard, and they don't do it, or they lift up 3 times in a row. Hook it, shake the fish off. You know, that's
yeah.
Set the hook once.
It's a monotonous thing, but
yeah. But we'll see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen with the guide business for me with the COVID thing. I can't get that close to people, and you know, the radio wants me now every day. So
go where the grass is growing. Hey.
Go, and they gave me my own studio that no one else goes in. It's private space.
Oh,
so
you got a
sterile.
COVID studio?
I've got a COVID studio. Yeah, COVID free. I mean.
Well, yeah, but I mean, wow.
Yeah,
that's a high honor. You're like king.
There's only 6 people allowed in the in the offices of the
In the
studio.
office.
So yeah.
Do you have a name, like a DJ name yet?
Yeah, you ready for this?
King Valley?
It's Clay.
Like the mud?
Yeah, just like that. Like, oh, hey, this is Clay. This is how I talk.
My radio voice.
Radio WMWV.
Are you excited?
But it's weird too because I'm on air right now. So if you tune in to WMWV, you can hear me talking between songs, even though I'm not there. So
Machine.
I'm only live on the weekends, and my weekday shifts I can do whenever I want to.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's cool. I do a lot of production. I make commercials, I edit commercials for them, and
I know. As soon as I'm allowed back in the valley, I can come listen.
yeah, it'll be fun. You're allowed. Just don't tell my friend John.
My wife asked me about him. Is he serious or is he being sarcastic? And I'm like, I think both.
It's both. He's playing with you mostly, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's funny.
All right. I got to go because I got kids and wives and things.
Yep.
So.
Stuff.
All right. Thanks.
Later. Good time.